British Spy Stories. Season 4. Double Agent. Episode 4. The taxi has taken 40 minutes from Zurich Airport to reach the large gates that keep unwelcome visitors outside of the land owned by Amandine Lecroix. Laravelle gets out and presses a button on a steel grille set into the wall. A second later, the metallic buzz of a motor starting indicates the gates swinging open. The car drops her at the main door. Laravelle pulls her black overcoat across her Chanel suit and stands with her suitcase, looking at the house. The building is only 2 stories high, but has elegant white walls and leaded windows across a vast frontage. She turns to look at the gardens, then hears the door open behind her, and she spins around. "I'm Nathalie Ducasse," she says in French. "Come in, young lady." She steps inside, and the woman leads them the length of a long corridor that ends in the lounge with the lake view. "I'm Madame Lecroix," she says. "Your résumé is excellent, Miss Ducasse." "Thank you, madame." "You're born in Paris, but grew up in London, I see. Why not Paris?" "My father's work took him there, and we followed," says Laravelle. "They're both dead now, your parents, is that right?" Amandine's eyes don't show any emotion, despite the directness of the question. "Yes, when I was at university. A car accident." "Bernadette was showing me your Instagram page, is it?" says Amandine. "No boyfriend, by the look of it?" Laravelle had only seen her fake social media account on the way to the airport in Frankfurt this morning. MI6 comms branch in London had constructed the profile in the last few days, using AI to put Laravelle in beach parties in Ibiza and cafes in Paris that appear to stretch back over the last few years. "I'm single, madame. 5 years now. I deleted all the old photos when we split up." "I don't want relations between my staff, Nathalie. My driver, Luc, is a single man. I trust you'll be professional." "Understood, madame." Amandine looks Laravelle up and down as Bernadette walks in from the hallway. "Your clothes are good," she says, and Laravelle smiles at her. "Bernadette, this is Nathalie." The young women shake hands. "Can you show her the ropes before you go?" Bernadette nods and smiles. "Nathalie, we meet or call every morning at 9 o'clock. I'll expect you to know my diary by tomorrow, and be fully up to speed." "Yes, madame." The 2 assistants walk to a room on the ground floor of the house that is used as their office, and Bernadette takes Laravelle through the way the diary works, and the contacts for flights, hotels, and all the elements of the job. Bernadette has to stop regularly, as she is feeling unwell. They have lunch and sit in a conservatory at the southern end of the home, but Bernadette only picks at her food. "What's she like?" says Laravelle. "Quite intense," replies Bernadette. "She wants things done immediately, and never forgets things she's asked for." "Do you enjoy it?" "It's okay. Not what I want to be doing in a couple of years, but the money's good. And you get accommodation here. I'll show you the room later. I'm saving for a flat with my boyfriend, so the less I have to spend the better. He lives in Zurich." Laravelle feels this woman will have useful background insights for this operation, so changes the subject. "This company that Amandine runs, what's it do?" "Banking." Bernadette screws up her nose. "What? Business banking?" "All sorts. I don't know really. I just arrange the meetings. She doesn't ask me to take notes or anything. I worked for a guy a year ago," says Laravelle, making it up as she goes along. "Turned out he was some sort of criminal." Bernadette looks suitably shocked. "The police appeared in the office one day and arrested him. I never knew a thing. There's nothing like that here, is there? I'm a bit wary after all that." Bernadette shakes her head, then pauses. "There was this one guy who unnerved me. We were in Frankfurt, and I went down to get him from the reception. Amandine was delayed, and I had to entertain him for 5 minutes.
Get coffee and things. What happened? He was creepy, says Bernadette. Started talking about guns and war and how he loved that Amandine was well connected. Touched my hand too. Weird. Who was he? I need to know in case he tried it on with me too.
Bernadette turns her eyes to Laravelle.
He was called Oscar Zetkin.
The Range Rover that pulls up outside the Olivetta restaurant on Elizabeth Street in London's Belgravia has blacked-out windows. A woman wearing a dark suit gets out of the front passenger door and opens the rear door. Constance Barrett, MI5, head of operations, steps out onto the pavement and walks briskly across to the front door of the restaurant. Inside, in the far corner, Sir Bernard is seated on a blue banquette at a table for 4, but laid for 2. He stands as she approaches and kisses her on the cheek.
I haven't been here for ages,
she says as she sits down. It's only just been reapproved by security. They like it now because it has a rear entrance, he says. Hence we get this table by the window, for a quick escape if needs be. A waiter approaches and they order swordfish with tuna and char-grilled salmon. After talking for a few minutes about the general state of affairs in their respective spying agencies, Sir Bernard says, Ralph came to see me about these leaks. She nods.
My minister is fretting, she says. I told him it happens all the time.
And you've set up an op, have you?
Operation Dunby. But I can only spare a new junior and 2 researchers.
We're working together on it, I understand. What's the overseas aspect?
Here's what we know, begins Connie. The details of some defence contracts have been leaking. We've only recently discovered that it's been going on over the last couple of years. Small leaks at first, then increasing in value and sensitivity. One of my agents recovered copies of the specification for a new mobile howitzer vehicle from a dead body in Mayfair. Those howitzers are being procured now. They're not due to be delivered for a year. That contract was top secret. That's when the whole thing got raised up the priorities. A waiter arrives with their starters, and they both drink some wine, while they wait for him to go. Despite all of the regular checks and security, she says, it just wasn't picked up early enough.
Reminds me of 2011, do you remember? We had leaks in the Home Office, and no one knew for 18 months.
A Russian agent did a good job at covering all that up.
What do we need this time, Connie? He says.
I've already put in place added covert security, scanners and cameras in the Procurement Directorate offices. I've got a team at GCHQ who are tapping phones and the mobiles of the senior people. And they've done an AI analysis of online activity from everyone who works there.
With respect, Connie, that's all about listening. I'd like us to put some action in place to avoid more leaks, rather than just know that they've happened.
Budgets, Bernard. I do what I can,
she says. We can send an agent in, undercover. I can lend you someone senior.
Who?
Robert Marsh, Agent Riverside, says Sir Bernard. I can brief him today, and he'll come and see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Like I said, he'll only have a new junior to work with from my side.
I'm sure it'll be fine. Sir Bernard smiles, and she reaches her hand out to cover the back of his as it rests on the table. The industrial estate where L'Equipe 84 told Kate to meet is stuck between the motorway and one of the railway lines that run through the Opfikon district of Zurich. She is wearing all black, including a woolen hat pulled down to her eyeline. Kate parks her Jaguar a mile away from the agreed meeting point and runs silently through the night, scouting the location in the half hour before the appointed time. She checks her watch. It's 1:45. The moon is stuck behind a patchy cloud base, creating occasional shafts of moonlight that cut through the darkness, then disappear again, as quickly as they came. She had done some further dark web research about the username L'Equipe84 last night. She hadn't found anything more about him, but half of her hadn't expected to. Usernames change multiple times per day in that online environment that is specifically there to mask the identity of the people who use it. Kate drops down into a gap between two warehouses that gives her a sightline to the location. A Beretta M9 handgun is in her underarm holster, beneath her zip-up jacket. She'll only need it if this guy is aggressive. Kate knows there is a risk to meeting in this way, on her own and without telling London anything. Every MI6 field resource has a tracker under the skin of their forearm, but it can be deactivated. Agents complained of their need to lead their own private lives when they're off duty, so London relented. Kate had set her tracker to offline before she left the flat this evening, as she doesn't want to explain to London Control why she's out here. Not yet, anyway. L'Equipe84 had only given a street name and number, which turns out to be a tyre business in the centre of the industrial estate. The clouds shift above her, and the front of the place is illuminated for a second, enough for her to see that there is a man waiting across the road. Kate stands from her crouched position, pulls a thin net mask up and over the lower half of her face, then walks out from between the warehouses. She keeps her pace steady, and can feel her fingers itching to reach for her gun, but she resists the instinct. She stops 10 feet from the man, who hasn't moved while she walked to him, but he has been watching her. He has a large, heavy overcoat covering him that nearly reaches the ground, and a disposable medical face mask hiding his features. "Are you armed?" he says, after a few seconds. "Uh-huh. I want to see how good you are." Only now does she see that he has an empty drinks can in his hand. He leans back and throws it into the air. Kate unholsters her M9, takes a single shot, and the can explodes in the air, 30 feet above them. Then it clatters down to the ground near his feet. He doesn't say anything. "What's the work you got?" says Kate. "We've got a couple of jobs that need doing." "What's the money?" she says, wanting to sound mercenary. 10 grand each. I don't work for less than 20. Again, he is silent. They stand watching each other for a few seconds. Then he pulls his mobile out of his coat pocket, pushes a button on it and puts it to his ear. "Okay," he says, into the device. Headlights flick on from a vehicle that is 100 yards up the road from them, and the car starts to move. L'Equipe84 and Kate stand still. As the engine noise builds, she eventually turns to look, and sees a dark green Bentley Bentayga SUV. It stops 20 feet from them. The driver gets out and opens the rear door. A tall man appears, and walks over to L'Equipe84. He is wearing a black overcoat and sunglasses. "Mr. Zetkin, this is the shooter I was telling you about." Zetkin walks to Kate until he is too close for comfort, but she doesn't move an inch. "A woman," he says. "How many have you killed?" "Enough." "She's good, sir," says L'Equipe84. "I tested her." "Show me," says Zetkin. The other man picks up the drinks can and throws it up into the air again. Kate doesn't take her eyes off Zetkin, unholsters, releases one round, and the sound of the bullet pinging off the metal cracks through the night air. Zetkin smiles and nods. "We can use you," he says, then turns back to the Bentley. He calls to L'Equipe84. "Give her the first job, Franco." The man steps inside the vehicle, and it accelerates away, along the road, into the distance. As she weaves her way back through the industrial estate, Kate wonders when, or if, she will tell London about her new role as a mercenary assassin. Episode 5. The November sun is low but bright over the water of Lake Zurich. Laravelle stands at Amandine Lecroix's boat mooring at the end of their garden and looks across to the far bank. Her phone hums in her pocket, and she pulls it out. The screen reads, "Travel agent." "Hi, Gabby," she says. "Any news?" "Just settling in," says Laravelle. "She works her PA like a dog, though." "Do you need to get on with work? We can talk later." "No, it's okay. She's gone out to Zurich until lunchtime." "I need you to do something," says Gabby. "In the secure compartment in your suitcase are several CH-45s that need to be planted." Gabby refers to the latest model of the MI6 standard listening bugs. "Can you plant them in the main rooms in the house?" "Yeah, okay," says Laravelle. "There's an update on that name I gave you. Oscar Zetkin. He's coming to visit Amandine for lunch the day after tomorrow." "Hans researched him," says Gabby. "Oscar Zetkin is an intermediary. He presents himself as a legitimate businessman, but he has a long list of associates who are on the MI6 watch list. Criminal gangs, terrorist groups, you name it. He's a master at slipping through the net, only to rise again a few months later, working with another black market organization." "Do I need to do anything?" says Laravelle. "No, but I think we'll do some interference with the Zetkin lunch to start to undermine Amandine and her confidence. The more uncomfortable we can make it between them, the less likely Zetkin will want to do business with her." "They're taking a boat out on the lake?" says Laravelle. "Okay, that's useful," says Gabby. "Hans and I will do something. If she wants you to go on the boat, say no. Think of some reason." They ring off. Laravelle goes straight to her bedroom and pulls out her suitcase from the wardrobe. The bag has 2 numerical locks that secure it. She turns the dials until they read 457 and 692. A hidden compartment door pings open on one side of the case. Inside the hidden storage are several CH-45s. She grabs them and walks along the corridor to Amandine's bedroom suite. The door is closed. She gently turns the handle and pushes on inside. Laravelle places one bug under the lampshade by the dressing table and another inside the ensuite bathroom. The CH-45s are magnetic, miniature and transparent to make them easy to install and difficult to detect. She checks sight lines, and they can't be seen. As she turns back to the door to leave, the handle starts to turn, and the door opens. "Snooping around, Natalie?" The chauffeur has a broad grin on his face. She had only met him this morning as he drove Amandine off to Zurich. "Luke, isn't it? I was just having a look at the place. It's so beautiful." She moves close to him. "How long have you been here?" "A year." She moves her body to usher him out to the corridor. "I've got a room on the top floor, if you want to see that too." His smile hasn't left his lips. "I'm fine, thanks," she says. "Not as grand as Madame's room, I'm guessing." He ignores the point. "I can take you out on a speedboat sometime. I'm a pilot as well as a chauffeur." She shuts Amandine's bedroom door. "You're here at the weekends?" he says. "Yeah, I'm staying here for 2 or 3 weeks until Bernadette comes back." "Got a boyfriend?" She pauses momentarily. "I don't need one." Laravelle smiles again and starts to walk away. He calls after her as she goes. "I go and sit down by the water at the far end of the garden in the evenings sometimes. Come and have a drink with me later." Laravelle isn't certain if she managed to take his attention away from her being in Amandine's room. She needs this man to be on her side as things get more disruptive in the next few days and weeks. Just before she turns the corner to go downstairs, she calls back to him.
If I have time. Sure?
Luke is left in the corridor, thinking that he needs to know more about this new woman in the household. The Spring Restaurant occupies some of the rooms inside the neoclassical grandeur of London's Somerset House on the north bank of the River Thames. The place is busy as Becky walks in through the front doors and a waiter shows her to a table by the window. Sylvia Webster is already at the table and they kiss cheeks. The woman has big open eyes, a small nose, and a mass of auburn hair. They order poached leeks with ricotta, then quail from the set menu. The two of them met 4 years ago at a lunch given by a group that arranges social events for the spouses of senior people in Parliament and the civil service. They had got on immediately. A waitress brings their starters. They both take a mouthful of food. Then Becky says,
Is Charlie behaving himself after?
She can't think what to call her friend's husband's affair, so the sentence peters out.
I can't watch him all the time. His office is full of gorgeous young girls. They flock down from Oxford, with their firsts in economics and their short skirts. Do you worry, though?
Sylvia shrugs.
I can't change him, but it leaves the door open for me to shag someone in the future, if I fancy it.
They both laugh.
Do you trust Gavin?
Says Sylvia.
With women? Yes, that's not his weakness. What is? Ambition, but with no idea how to network,
says Becky.
He says he wants to be Home Secretary someday. I keep telling him that he needs to befriend the senior people in the party, but my ideas just frustrate him.
Didn't he just get a new job?
Yeah, Junior Defence Minister. There you are then. He's annoying me at the moment anyway. He's busy all the time. I hardly see him.
You can't complain about his absence with a new job after you said he can't network.
I know. We should do a couples date,
says Sylvia.
Charlie will be working with Gavin now. He does defence buying. Oh, they'll talk shop all night. That's all under scrutiny, apparently.
What is? Says Becky.
Charlie had some special briefing on the new heightened security arrangements they're putting in place. They can't talk to anyone about anything, not even spouses. They're not allowed to anyway. They all signed the Official Secrets Act, didn't they? Or whatever it's called now. Some chap was arrested the other week for leaking. He was in Charlie's team,
says Sylvia.
You always get a few rotten apples. It's all about blackmail,
says Sylvia.
They get dirt on you. Then you do everything they say if you want your cosy life to continue. My cosy life is just dull at the moment. We should have a girls' night out then,
says Sylvia.
West End, theatre, food, a club. Drink too much. Dance the night away with some handsome stranger.
They both smile.
Great idea,
says Becky. Thames House on the north bank of the river is the official headquarters of the UK's Domestic Intelligence Service, MI5. As Riverside sits in the reception area, on a low sofa, awaiting Connie Barrett's secretary, he watches the constant flow of people coming in and going out of the place. He is blonde, with eyes that had looked innocent when he was younger. After 5 minutes, a very slim woman with large glasses appears in front of him and asks him to follow her. The secretary takes him to the 5th floor and leaves him in a conference room that overlooks the water. When he worked in GCHQ a few years ago, he was offered jobs in both MI5 and MI6. He's glad he chose the International Intelligence Agency, as he needed some escape from what his life had been back then. At the time, his girlfriend had just died. It took him more than 2 years to stop thinking about her every day. The door opens behind him, and he turns.
You must be Riverside,
says Connie, walking into the room. She holds out her hand and they shake.
Did Bernard brief you?
Not really, he says. But he said you'd have some more about this joint operation? Connie nods, then steps to one side to reveal a young woman in her 20s
behind her. "This is Agent Loxby." The woman has pale green eyes, brunette hair tied back, and a concerned look on her face. "This is her first 6 months with us." Connie holds his gaze for a moment, and he shakes hands with Loxby. "Have a seat, you two, and I'll give you some background." Connie steps them through the intelligence that has been collected about the defence leaks over the last couple of years. She tells them about the recent arrest of a man in procurement branch who had been copying information and trying to sell it online. "What do you see as the goal of this op, Mum?" says Riverside. "Apart from the obvious, catching the culprits. Is there anything else?" "What were you thinking?" says Connie. "There'll be a network of people buying the stuff, creating the market. Otherwise the leakers couldn't sell it on." Connie nods. "Do we destroy the network of buyers too?" "In the perfect world, of course. But we only have you two and some resource in research branch on this. So I'd limit your ambitions, Riverside. This isn't like one of your no-expenses-spared ops in 6. He screws up his face. "We'll see what we can do, Mum." They talk for a few more minutes to clarify details. Then Connie says her goodbyes and goes to her next meeting, leaving Loxby and Riverside in the room. "Shall we get a coffee?" he says, then adds, "Outside of this place." They walk to a coffee shop that he knows in the back streets around Thames House. They order, then sit down at a round table next to the square window. "So, Loxby," he begins, "I'm Rob. What's your name?"
"Emma."
"You were quiet in there, with Connie Barrett."
"I didn't have any questions."
She looks uncomfortable. "This is your first operation?" She sips her chai latte.
"Uh-huh."
"Emma, we're partners in this." He looks at her and opens his eyes slightly. "It's not me doing it, and you along for the ride. You know that."
"Okay."
"You need to talk more, Emma. We won't sort this op unless we discuss things and agree together what we're going to do." He waits, but she doesn't say anything. He sighs. "What is your analysis of what you just heard from Connie?" She thinks for a few seconds, and he's starting to feel frustration build inside his brain. Then she begins to talk.
"What's the psychology of leaking information? Why do they do it? These people in positions of power and influence already. They're successful. They've got senior jobs in their chosen field. Politics, procurement, the military, whatever. Then they risk it all and break the rules. And breaking these particular rules, they know, could end their careers and bring their life all crashing down around their ears."
Riverside drinks his coffee as he listens. Loxby looks up at him, checking to see if he's taking her seriously or not.
"And,"
she continues,
"this is not like missing a deadline for your school homework. This is serious rule-breaking. Throwing it all away for a few bundles of cash. What makes an ambitious, talented individual suddenly do that?"
Riverside pauses, then says, "The traitors I've come across only do it for one of 3 reasons. Either they're political, which is rare despite what you may think, or they're in debt, but most often they're bored and want their life to be more exciting, and an opportunity presents itself."
"But why destroy everything they've built in order to get some excitement?"
she says.
"It's like they don't care, as though everything they've done isn't worth anything to them anymore."
"It happens. The life they thought they wanted when they were young turns out to be not as glamorous as they thought it would be. But they only find that out when they get there." She sips her coffee, and he continues. "So, how do you use the observations you just made to help us catch the culprits?" She looks out of the window at the passing traffic. On the glass, a few spots of rain have started to appear. After 5 seconds, she says,
"We give them a replacement to leaking. Something that excites them as much. But we provide what it is. They end up trusting us, then bang! We trigger the trap.
She looks at him, seeking some sort of reaction. Riverside smiles and nods. Yeah, he says. That's exactly what we're going to do.